Do you know how much money your congressional candidate receives from out-of-state sources? According to a new report by the DC-based campaign finance tracker, OpenSecrets, it's quite a lot.
And we have a vast database containing campaign contributions across all 50 states and at the federal level, as well as lobbying data, dark money analysis, foreign lobbying data as well, and have that available on our website.
That's OpenSecrets Executive Director, Hilary Braseth. They just wrapped up a study called Outside Money, Inside Influence, How National Donors Shape the 2024 Congressional Election.
So we basically took a look at the numbers from the 2024 election cycle. And the question we started with is how much of a candidate's fundraising is coming from within their district, whether it's a congressional district or the state for a senator, versus outside of state. Last year continues to show this sort of steady downward trend in terms of how much money a candidate is getting inside the district versus outside the district.
In Wyoming, 89% of House fundraising was out of state. In the Senate, that number was 92.5%.
Is this typical? I think one of the reasons that we tend to see this happening is that in states with lower population numbers like Wyoming, where there's only one House candidate, we see a lot more outside money or outside state money coming into those cycles. You could come up with a number of theories for why that might be the case. Potentially, that means that you could have greater influence because there are fewer other votes happening within that state to represent the state. And so there might be more interest from out of state folks in wanting to build relationship via giving a donation to those candidates.
But there's always been outside money in politics, not always easy to trace as it passes through a super PAC or two. So how is this any different?
We also do analyses regularly of did money wins. Generally speaking, about 80% of candidates who raise more money end up winning the election. So it's a pretty high correlational value. Now, that being said, if we look at last year's presidential election, that did not happen. Kamala Harris far outraised Donald Trump based on the figures reported and did not win. But generally speaking, there often is this correlation with someone who raises more money, whether in-state or out of state, translating into a win. Now, the bigger question is, with more time, will the public start to resent the fact or hold a side eye to the fact of a candidate raising that money from not within their district? Now, that remains to be seen, although it is one of the few issues that most people across the aisle can agree on. The US, in large part, population-wise, does not like the fact of how much money is in politics.
Braseth says some states have taken to the legislature to limit or regulate the amount of money candidates can receive and where it comes from. Other states haven't. Wyoming caps personal campaign donations at $2,500, but PACs can make unlimited contributions to statewide candidates. Braseth says the trend is likely to continue. However,
based on the figures that we've seen and the trends over the last decade plus, it's likely that we see those figures continue to increase in terms of money coming from out of state versus in state. And I do think it's up to Wyoming to decide if this is okay or not. And if they're not okay with it, there's policy pathways. And if they are okay with it, then I think that there still needs to be transparency on where the money's coming from for the sake of trust and integrity and democracy.